This one's gonna be a doozy for sure. Let me just tell you that these are not skinwalkers. Everything you know about skinwalkers is a lie, except for the very few of you who actually kind of know what you're talking about. Now this video is going to be the first of my paranormal series, so there's going to be a lot more paranormal investigations, more stories, more talks about my experiences that I've had in the paranormal. So this first subject that we're going to cover is the Yanagloshi, or best known as by everybody around the world as skinwalkers. Hey everybody, my name is Shanclen and welcome to another episode of Shanclen Shadow Productions. So this one's going to be a little bit different from my niche, but not really different from who I am. So this one's going to be a different segue into my paranormal side of my channel. So this is going to be the very first episode I'm going to be going over, and I have to say I have seen a lot of misinformation out there about the subject I'm going to be covering. I've been traveling on the YouTubes, the TikToks, the Instagrams, and I've been seeing a lot of videos about how people try to tell stories about skinwalkers.
Here, for example, in this video, we see a skinwalker who has taken on the form of a man.
Oh, hey neighbor.
In fact, skinwalkers are basically wizards who've killed their loved ones.
Now, I know a lot of you out there have heard stories or even claimed to have seen a skinwalker in their lives. And I have to say that maybe like 80% of you are wrong. Let me explain. So, I know a lot of word has been spread across the United States, across all Turtle Island, and even the world about skinwalkers and the lores and the legends of it. And I've seen a lot of YouTube videos. They get some things right here and there, but I noticed that they miss a lot of stuff. And, you know, I honestly don't blame them. You know, it's a hot topic. They're not from these lands, and so they do their best to get what they can from Google and do the research online. And so I'm here to set the story straight. I know on our previous channel, Unearthing the Supernatural, we've kind of covered this subject a lot, but here I'm going to do it officially on my channel. So, where does the skinwalker come from? Where does the Yanagloshi come from? Where do they hail? Where do they live? Hell, might even know what they eat. Just kidding. But skinwalkers and Yanagloshis originate from the Navajo Nation. Hundreds of years ago, medicinal people used to go to our four sacred mountains that border the Navajo Nation. 2 in Colorado, 1 in Arizona, and 1 in New Mexico. Now these medicinal people would have to traverse the land very quickly to be able to do this ceremony within a couple days. So, the spiritual people taught these medicinal men how to shapeshift. How to turn into animals, how to turn into deer, how to turn into coyotes, how to turn into hawks. And so they use this power to be able to traverse the land for good, to do really good medicinal ceremonies, to be able to help patients. And in that old sacred way, they used to do this. But to be able to learn how to shapeshift was a very, very, very hard task and was not easy to do. So what people used to have to do, they used to spend years of their life learning the songs, going through ceremonies to be able to learn how to shapeshift into these animals. Now, there's a lot of people that were out there that were like, man, this is taking too long. I can't do this. You know, I can't stick with this. Now, when that happened, evil and darkness heard their voice as well, heard their prayers, searching for an easier way to do this. Darkness and evil said, come here. I know how to make you shapeshift real easy, but there's a couple things that you have to do to be able to obtain this power. So some people were just like, well, what do you have to do? There's certain steps and ceremonies you have to do to be able to learn how to shapeshift the way we do. First off, you have to sacrifice a loved one, an immediate loved one, whether that be your lover, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, or your child, or your grandparents. Somebody that you love and hold close and dear to your heart. You'd have to take them out into the reservation, into the darkness, and you would have to sacrifice them to be able to first step and to obtain this power. Now, I know this is really dark, this is really gruesome, but this is the truth of how Yanagloshis become to be. So, there's some other steps that you have to take that I'm not going to actually disclose to you, because a lot of that is very gruesome, and I'm not going to go into detail because a lot of it we're going to keep sacred here. But once you complete all these tasks, you're able to learn how to shapeshift into evil and darkness. Now, a lot of things that everyone seems to forget is where these skinwalkers come from. The Navajo Nation itself holds a lot of sacred power within its borders, and a lot of songs and ceremonies that tie into the mountains, the land, the sky, and its geological point where it's at. So a lot of times, if you were to be a skinwalker, you draw power from the natural landscape that you're at. Now, am I saying that there couldn't be a possibility of a skinwalker leaving the Navajo Nation? No. If they're really pretty high skilled enough to be able to leave the Navajo Nation, say go to the East Coast or learn how to shapeshift over there, use the mountain terrain over there and everything, yes, it's possible, but very, very unlikely. So what are some of the traits of a skinwalker? What are the things they can and cannot do? Can they turn into an elephant? Yeah, maybe, but they have to go and hunt and kill an elephant, wear its skin, and do the whole ceremony. Yes, they can turn into animals, they can shapeshift into anything, almost anything really, but they would have to be able to kill the animal, skin it, mark it up with its markings and designs, put it through its own ceremonies and rituals to be able to prep it to be able to be worn and shapeshift into. Now, I've seen a lot of videos of people out there saying like their dog, looks weird, or there's, all these other things like a poodle or something small. To be honest, Skinwalker is not going to skin a poodle, put it on its back, and be able to shapeshift into it. It's possible, but it's going to be very hard to be able to shrink down to that size. Typically, the coyote, the buck, the wolf are the main skins that were readily available in the Navajo Nations. So there's also the bear, the mountain lion as well, but those are sacred animals, and a lot of times those themselves could not be changed into the darkness, so you rarely see those being able to be used in a skinwalker regalia or outfit. Coyotes and bucks and deer were mainly the skins used because there were plenty of those in the Navajo Nation. For those of you out there who have seen videos of people hearing their voices being mimicked in the distance, yes, that is a true thing that actually happens. Another tactic that the skinwalkers like to use is dog whistles. So for those of you out there that don't know, the Navajo Nation is a very rural area. Homes are very spread out. Your nearest neighbor is a mile to a half mile away. So you're kind of out there by yourself. And typically in the Navajo Nation homestead, you'll always have dogs, either sheep herding dogs or protection dogs. And dogs are very attuned to when darkness comes around. They're the protectors of the home. So late at night when you're by yourself in your hogan, there's no one around, and your dogs start barking in the middle of the night, but then they stop. You're like wondering, like, why did my dog start barking? One tool that these skinwalkers use is dog whistles. They use these whistles, or bone whistles more specifically. They use these whistles to be able to hush up the dogs, to be able to sneak in close to the home. And then they put these powders, they do these songs and these ceremonies to be able to put your animals and protectors to sleep. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone out there in the Navajo Nation knows, and if you're watching this, I'm sure you have stories of being home late at night, sleeping, and then you hear footsteps on your roof. You hear rattles. You hear growls. you hear scratching on your door. For those of you out there, if you were to go to the Navajo Nation, I'm pretty sure about 90% of everybody on the Navajo Nation has experienced a Yanagloshi in their life. So, what are some of the weapons that the Skinwalker uses? A Skinwalker typically uses natural-based elements weapons. So, a Skinwalker is typically known as a grave robber or a Navajo witch, but there's a lot more to it. So typically a lot of the weapons are based off of natural elements. They're grave robbers. They go to cemeteries, they dig up bodies, they grab the bones, and if they're still decaying, sometimes they use the flesh. A lot of the flesh from the human bones and body can be used as poisons to be able to bring sickness onto the people. So they make bone knives, bone darts. They grind up the bones after they collect them to make this powder. And it is said that these Yanagloshis can paralyze you. It's another one of their powers that they have. They can come up to you and paralyze you and you can't do anything about it. And they grab that ground up bone powder and they blow it in your face. And if you don't get a ceremony soon, that is a curse that is put upon you and you will die. It's very, very powerful. So everybody out there, be sure to watch out. So what other abilities do the Skinwalkers have? Other than paralyzing you, they have incredible speed. There's a lot of reports on the reservation of people driving on dirt roads going 50 to 75 miles an hour, or even 100 depending on what kind of road you're on. Not a lot of cops out there. But while these people are driving in the middle of the night coming back home from work or hauling wood, there were reports and signs of people running alongside their vehicles in the middle of the night. And the only thing that can run that fast and out there is a Yanagloshi. So who am I to talk about Skinwalkers? Who am I to say what is and what isn't about a Skinwalker? I know what a Skinwalker is because we've dealt with them for many years. I've even had distant family relatives put on the skins and become a Yanagloshi. Couple ceremonies we've went out to families' homesteads to get rid of items of dead and past relatives. And inside those items were Yanagloshi regalia, skins, antlers, weapons, bone knives, bones itself, inside their belongings. So I know what Skinwalkers can do to a person. Now I know you're not supposed to go out and talk about Yanagloshis or speak about Yanagloshis, but unless you know how to handle them. So I've had a lot of encounters with Skinwalkers growing up, from a little kid staying out at my great-grandmother's house to hearing them in the middle of the nights running out on a roof, knocking on the door, and copying our family members' voices from the outside to help draw us out. Now, these beings are very, very powerful to the normal person, but if you have the knowledge to be able to defend yourself against these monsters, you'll be alright. One of the biggest tools that these Skinwalkers have against you is fear itself. Fear is their biggest tool that they have to be able to paralyze you, to gain control of you. And I know, middle of the night you're by yourself on the reservation and out there in the darkness you see a figure stand up. You see a coyote stand up on its 2 feet. I know, it's very terrifying. You got to be a very special person to not be terrified of that. But there's a lot of protections that you can use to be able to protect yourself in your home. Ash is one of the big things that you can use from a fire after you pray with it, after you put cedar down, to put on yourself and around your home as well. There's a lot of ceremonial objects that a lot of indigenous people have that they use in ceremonies that can be used to protect yourself in your home. Utilize these paraphernalia, utilize your jish to be able to protect yourself and your families out there. So, for everyone out there, if you see a TikTok video or a YouTube video about people talking about Skinwalkers outside of the Navajo Nation, take it with a grain of salt. Because more than likely, it's similar to a Skinwalker. It may be a shapeshifter. It may be, who knows, it might be a doppelganger out there, or even another spiritual being out there that can mimic voices. But if you see your poodle doing something weird and you live, all the way in Florida, New York, or Washington, D.C., it's probably not a skinwalker. It's probably your dog just being weird. Now, I know this video isn't going to stop everybody from making false claims about what skinwalkers actually are, Yanagloshis. But maybe you'll be able to use this video to bring some light into your eyes and to be a little bit more skeptical about things that you see on the internet. A lot of times I've just had enough, seeing too many TikTok videos, too many YouTube videos about people claiming to see skinwalkers or know the history when they actually never lived it, when they've never actually been to our nation, when they've never actually heard the stories from our own people. They just did a quick Google search. So everyone out there, be safe. Here's a quick story of a Yanagloshi, and there's going to be more stories, more adventures on my paranormal journey. This is Shanclen from Shanclen Shadow Productions signing off. I'm going ahead, everybody. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. And I'll go on it.